Hi, everybody. Dan Ullman, Matt Bernier, the DRF.com Formulator Race of the Day for Friday, June the 16th, race number 9 at Santa Anita. We're going 1.25 miles on the turf. Let's take a look at this field of optional claimers. We are pre-scratches and program changes, but still head on over to the Race of the Day event page on DRF.com and download free Formulator past performances. Matt, the number 1 Curlin Road, claimed by Doug O'Neill, thrown immediately onto the turf, and he had the misfortune to catch Kenji Storm when that horse ran the race of his life.
Horse ran the race of his life. He was also loose on the lead. There was no pace in that race. This is a horse that does his best racing from off of the pace. The problem for him, even in this spot, doesn't look like there's a ton of early pace signed on. He
really does act like 1.25 miles isn't going to be a problem for him. And I think he can make the argument that in that last race, the trip really didn't work out. He didn't break very well. He was steadied in among horses going under the wire the first time. And then he had one of those last on the rail trips. He picked up some horses late, but he's still a turf maiden after 4 starts. I'm just not sure. I'm interested in your thoughts. Do you believe that buyer from that last race? Because Kenji Storm, I believe, ran a top. Royal Albert Hall ran a top, and certainly Curlin Road.
I mean, put it this way, I don't look at it as it's a phony number. I don't think it's that far off, even if it is a career best for Kenji Storm. Keep in mind, we always talk about it. You're going to run sort of a career best when you're out there allowed to do everything on your own. And Kenji Storm is no bum. I mean, he's a nice sort of salty allowance type. So the buyer, to me, that's not really the big news for this race. It's more a matter of, I don't know if some of the best horses are going to get the best trips.
And Curlin Road, 2 for 21. He lacks a winning profile. Yeah. He's the kind of horse I'd use maybe on the bottom of trifectas and superfectas. The number 2 is Newsman, trained by Phil D'Amato. Like the way he won his race 2 starts back over a promising turf horse in Prince of Arabia. Didn't break very well, had to split horses on the turn, and came and got the winner, the runner-up in the stretch. Last time out, I didn't think that race was run to suit him. I think as a European, he likes to be covered up and make a late run. There was not a lot of pace. He was up close to the pace, and that was a race where Liam the Charmer and Vigilante came from last and next to last. The pace, even though it wasn't fast, it sort of fell apart a little bit.
It did, and that's the interesting sort of piece about that entire race. Like you say, you go into Timeform US, the fractions, the pace, and the color coding was slow. There wasn't much on there, but those horses that were forwardly placed, they didn't really finish much. For me, I guess I was a little bit concerned maybe about the distance, that maybe 1.25 miles isn't really what it wants, because you see that big win that came 2 back, that came at 1 1/8 miles. But if you think that maybe not being covered up kind of worked to his detriment, maybe Flavian Pratt can work something out here.
The number 3 is Powerfoot. And Powerfoot is 8 years old. He's danced all the dances against all the top competition. And now Neil Drysdale is dropping him in for 62.5. And it's probably a wise move because while Powerfoot has run well in graded stakes races, he just hasn't been able to get over the hump. Couldn't find an excuse for him in the San Juan Capistrano last time out, other than he was in against much tougher horses.
And I guess that's the thing. If you're going to use this horse or play this horse, you're banking on the class relief getting him over the hump. I just look at it and say this is a horse that hasn't won a race since January of 2015. Even if he wins in here, what kind of price is he going to be? He's just not for me.
And he's been in for 62.5, 3 starts back. A very similar spot to this one, and he got beat. Another horse that lacks a winning profile, the 3 Powerfoot, but he does certainly have the back class and back races. The number 4, Mr. Roary, this is sort of a curious spot to make his 4-year-old debut off of a long layoff in a 1.25 mile race. I think he can be forwardly placed.
I think he's going to make the front in here. Now the question becomes, do you think he's good enough? And also the distance off of this kind of layoff. George Papadromo's numbers over the past 5 years, 180+ days, not very good, 1 for 17. The 1 win came with a 50+ to 1 shot. So I suppose you could say that this horse, if you think that there isn't much speed signed on and you think that, you know what, I know he's only 2 for 14, but he's got a couple of big efforts there on his page. Maybe if he's ready to go off the bench, he can make this field better.
And he was just part of a too fast pace last time out in the Twilight Derby way back on Breeders' Cup weekend. They went very fast and he paid the price. In frank conversation, the winner of that race at a big price was in sneaky good form. He came back to run 3rd in the Grade 1 Hollywood Derby with a 98 Buyer's speed figure. Let's look at the Timeform US pace projector for our race of the day. And they do have Mr. Roary controlling things. So if he is ready to rumble off of a layoff, perhaps this horse is intriguing at a price.
Absolutely. Again, if you don't think there's a lot of pace, and as the pace projector sort of indicates, I think he's clearing right to the front, and they're just going to say, hopefully we can get to the wire first.
The number 5, Editorial, is a Group 1 winner over heavy ground in his native Brazil. He is yet to win from 5 starts in North America, but it's his 3rd start of the form cycle after pairing up Bayer tops. He gets a little bit eager in the early portion of his race. races. I think it's really up to Diego Pereira to get this horse in behind horses and settled.
Yeah, he was ranked 2 back in last time out. He was under just an absolute hammerlock early on, trying to get him to relax. I don't know. I thought he finished just sort of evenly, and you look at his overall body of work here in North America, not good enough, in my opinion, to get it done.
When Vigilante, the number 6, first came to the Phil D'Amato barn, he came with a lot of hype. He ran 3rd in the Grade 2 Mathis Brothers Mile, first time for this barn, and then unfortunately disappeared for a year and a half. And it really looks like that D'Amato has slowly been cranking Vigilante up. This will be his 3rd start back, and he ran quite well last time.
Yeah, he did. And again, that kind of goes back to what you had talked about earlier on, where this race particularly, it looked like there wasn't a lot of speed signed on, but the pace setters finished up the track. So you've got to make a determination what you want to do with that. I'm going to be kind to horses coming from off the pace, even though they did run 1 and 2. I just look at it and say Vigilante was very late to change leads. Had he changed leads earlier, I think he beats Liam the Charmer. Liam the Charmer comes back in a stakes race and earns a 96 buyer, finishing in the middle of the pack. This horse, just to me, in so many ways, is the horse to beat. The concern becomes, I don't think you're going to get any sort of price on him.
I agree with everything you say. He's the horse to beat. He might be a little bit of an underlay at the windows. A 1.25 miles is not going to be an issue for this horse at all, but I am concerned that it took him almost the length of a stretch to change leads. And remember, that was only 2 starts after a very long layoff, and it's taken him about 2 months to get back to the races here. But Vigilante certainly has races. The 7 on draft, we saw 2nd in the Timeform U.S. pace projector. He can be close to the pace. And we have a positive formulator fact for this longer priced horse. Vladimir Serin, past 4 years, going 2nd off the claim with older turf runners, 33%, big 8.13 return on investment. But this horse is getting a bit of a class quiz, a little slow on paper.
A little slow on paper, but I am very intrigued by this horse. You get the Bug, who's just been riding red hot, knows what to do out there. You also look at the pace in this race. I think this horse sits a decent enough trip. That most recent start, I think it's a positive that Serin jumps him up in class, because I thought he ran just fine there. I know he couldn't quite get there, but Oscar Dominguez, who we'll get to in a minute, he really rolled on the far outside. I think On Draft is a little bit sneaky in here at a big number.
Royal Albert Hall, like Curlin Road, comes out of that Kenji Storm race, and like Curlin Road, is not a prolific winner. He's 2 for 25 lifetime, only 1 for 20 on the turf, but he did run well with a nice pocket trip last time out to be 2nd best to Kenji Storm, and he has run races, especially at a 1.25 miles, that would make him a nice fit in this spot, and he can be close to the pace.
I think the distance is the thing that really helps him. The reason I just have such a hard time making this horse or putting him on top is, I mean, you brought it up, 2 for 25, and not just that, but 14 times 2nd or 3rd. This is just what he does. He likes to kind of round out the exotics. That's what I'm expecting again on Friday.
Oscar Dominguez, 2 back, found 1.5 miles a little bit too far, but in the races sandwiching that effort at 1.25 miles, both good ones, including an effort on May the 20th where he came from way off of the pace. That could be an issue in here, though, considering of the lack of pace up front.
The lack of pace, and I feel like of the closers, I think there's more talented closers coming from the back. I do think, though, he has a chance to hit the board.
Let's take a look at our top selections for Friday's formulator race of the day, and we're both going with Phil D'Amato. You like the 6 Vigilante, 6, 7, 8, 9, loves the distance, ran really well last time out, master trainer.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's just kind of, this race boiled down to who do I think is the best horse? And there's a piece of me that thinks that Vigilante is just the best horse. I think he's going to probably be an underlay. I made him 3 to 1. I don't know that you're going to get 3 to 1. If I'm looking for sort of an alternative as far as price is concerned, though, On Draft, I think could work out a good trip.
That's our formulator fact horse. 6, 7, 8, 9 again for Matt. I'm going to go 2, 8, 6, and 1. I think that Newsman, although he was up close to that moderate pace, I don't think that's how he wants to be ridden. He wants to be ridden like in the race 2 starts back, where he was in behind horses and was able to produce a late run. And remember, in that race last time out with a slow pace, they all kind of went for it about a half mile from home, and Newsman crumbled late. The distance a little bit of a concern, but I think it'll be a decent price. 2, 8, 6, and 1 for me in our formulator race of the day. And if you're playing the Friday Santa Anita card from home, DRF Bets invites new subscribers to be VIPs for a week. And all you have to do is head on over to drfbets.com/VIP. Immediately get a $300 bonus and lots more. Approximate post time for the 9th at the Great Race Place on Friday, 5 o'clock Pacific. Best of luck.